Hello and welcome in India. France have been strategic partners for long, completing 25 years of this elevated strata of ties in 2023 itself. The relationship spans almost every conceivable domain, from defense to trade and investments, from digital to culture and people-to-people ties. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron is on his fourth visit to India from the 17th to the 19th of this month to give a further fillip to the bilateral relationship. We'll be getting you all the details on DD India as a substantial part of the visit unfolds over the next few hours itself. I am Gautam Roy.
Thank you, Gautam, and I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. French President Emmanuel Macron is in Mumbai right now. He met Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the two leaders are holding bilateral talks in India's financial capital. We'll find out soon about the outcome in terms of the exchange of documents, MOUs, and the leaders' press statements as well. Another major part of this bilateral visit, Gautam, is related to innovation. India-France Innovation Partnership is in focus. President Macron is also set to participate in India AI Impact Summit that is underway in Delhi. A lot is expected to take place between the two nations on the tech front. We will be reflecting on all these themes. Let's begin.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed French President Emmanuel Macron in Mumbai on his fourth visit to India earlier in the day. The two leaders are currently holding talks at Lok Bhavan in India's financial capital, Mumbai, to take strategic partnership even further. First visit of President Macron, Shubhendu, to Mumbai, really.
That's right. And leaders are expected to be holding extensive discussions covering a broad spectrum of global and bilateral issues with strong focus on strategic, technological and economic partnerships. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi expressed his commitment to advancing bilateral ties to new heights.
And apart from his meetings in Mumbai, both the leaders will launch the Year of Innovation 2026, imparting further momentum to the vibrant India-France strategic partnership. Connecting these bilateral engagements to a broader global platform, the French President and Prime Minister Modi will later travel to the national capital to attend the India AI Impact Summit 2026.
President Macron's participation underscores the importance that both nations attach to future-focused cooperation. In a social media post, Prime Minister Modi said that it's a delight to meet his friend, President Emmanuel Macron, in Mumbai. Prime Minister said President Macron told him that he really likes the city and also enjoyed his run earlier in the day.
And earlier, President Macron began the day surprising the Mumbaikars by joining the rush of morning walkers in the city. The French President was seen jogging with a team of security personnel, including French and Indian officials. Wearing a navy blue t-shirt and black sunglasses, Macron decided not to disrupt his fitness routine despite being in a foreign country ahead of a long day of diplomatic engagements.
And French President Emmanuel Macron paid tributes to the victims of the 2008 attacks. Later, in a social media post, President Macron sent out a message to the families and loved ones of the victims and to India that France stands with you. He says unity and determination in the face of terrorism.
At least two French citizens had also lost their lives in the Mumbai terror attacks. Now, as we informed you, both the leaders will launch the Year of Innovation 2026, imparting further momentum to the vibrant India-France strategic partnership. We get you all the details in this report.
On 17th February, India and France will enter a new phase of cooperation in innovation. In Mumbai, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron will jointly announce the launch of the India-France Year of Innovation 2026. During Prime Minister Modi's visit to France last year, both countries announced the Horizon 2047 roadmap. The India-France Year of Innovation 2026 will be part of that vision. Throughout the year, programs will be organized to promote innovation in defense, space, civil, nuclear energy, climate, digital technology, and emerging sectors. The initiative is expected to generate awareness and inspiration, especially among youth. The India France Innovation Forum will be held in Mumbai on 17th February. Apart from Prime Minister Modi and President Macron, the forum will bring together business leaders, startup representatives, researchers, and policymakers from both countries. To take the India France Year of Innovation 2026 to the public, a special cultural program will also be organized at the historic Gateway of India in Mumbai on the 17th. The Year of Innovation particularly will focus on startup collaboration, joint research, higher education partnerships, artificial intelligence, green technologies, and next generation digital technologies. At a time when the global order faces multiple challenges, this collaboration between India and France will signal positive and constructive engagement on the world stage.
This is the time of innovation, and India cannot miss this chance. That is why India-France Innovation Year 2026 is very important, because if India has to become a developed nation by 2047, innovation is very important. Akhilesh Suman for DD India with camera person Ashish Sharma in Mumbai, Lok Bhavan.
You're watching a special presentation on DD India on India-France relations as President Macron is on a visit to India. He's in Mumbai holding talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to take forward our deliberation and conversation on the theme. Let me welcome Professor Gulshan Sachdeva from School of International Studies, JNU, New Delhi. Also joining us is Subimal Bhattacharjee, strategic and cyber expert. Warm welcome to both of you. Professor Sachdeva, if I can come to you first. Let's begin with the beginnings. France happens to be the first Western country with whom India struck a strategic partnership deal. This was way back in 2008. 3 decades on, how do you see the evolution of the relations between the two countries?
Well, thank you. Well, you're right. I mean, today we have close to, or maybe more than 40 strategic partnerships. And the first ever strategic partnership actually we signed was with France in 1998. Since then, it's a long way, and as your report, mentioned, we celebrated 25 years earlier, and there is a, during this period, as you can see, 3 Indian prime ministers, 4 French presidents, they have all nurtured this partnership. This is in fact one of the top, I would say, strategic partnership India has since then. And it has a solid institutional mechanism which spans, as your report is mentioning, all kind of areas, not just only in trade, economics, And, interesting thing is that, we are in different geographies at a different level of development, but still somehow our worldview has converged. We have both talked about effective multilateralism, we work together against international terrorism, on climate and cyber space. I mean, all kind of, and of course people to people and so many other technology, innovation, everything else. So that really tells us that it's not just only about certain matters about trade, economics and others, but you also have a broader understanding. Because France is very much part of, at least it has been very much part of European economic and security architecture, and also very strong in partner of transatlantic partnership. Still, French different presidents, from I would say from De Gaulle onwards, they really believed in French identity and their strategic autonomy. And through their integration within Europe, they also try to promote their own French strategic autonomy. And now, of course, for the last many years, President Macron is also talking about not just only about strategic autonomy, but also about European sovereignty. And similar, in fact, in the Indian context.
Yes.
Our foreign policy, as we have now strategic partnerships with almost every important country in the world today. We have very close partnerships with Russia, with many of the European countries, with the United States, and with also so many countries in the global south. But still, I think continuation from our non-alignment movement, and even now, as we have seen it during the Ukraine crisis and many other issues globally, India still believes in its own strategic independence and strategic autonomy, which is reflected in our action, which is reflected in our conduct. And I think that's the kind of worldview, that's the kind of understanding, I think, which has really brought these two countries together. And then, all the leaders from both the countries, and now in the last 10, 12 years, I think there is a very strong partnership now between President Macron and Prime Minister Modi. So we also have not just only about economic issues, but also very strong strategic partnership now. Yes. In a sense, defense partnership. Earlier we bought, and particularly when India purchased Rafale, and now of course the major deals are going to happen. That's what there's so many reports. So that will really bring these two countries even further closer, because you can have perhaps trade deals with countries, but you can't have very solid defense deals with other countries unless there is a broader understanding and you really feel that there is a convergence of interest, broader strategic, political and economic. And this is what I think the nutshell I can tell you about the India-France partnership.
And Shubhimal, the same could be applied to the tech domain as well, because of the way things are shaping up, particularly because of artificial intelligence. India and France have partnered earlier as well. Summit previously was held in Paris, where India was co-host, and now President Macron is here, and he'll be there in Delhi at the AI Summit as well.
Yeah, Gautam, I think the strategic partnership on the tech sector might not have been told in those terms, but long back when supercomputing capabilities were denied to India, France was the country that gave us, and the company that got it, Atos, actually has a manufacturing center out of Chennai for many, many years. So over all these years, that continuation of conversations on the tech sector, the larger tech sector, more on the, I would say, the AI infrastructure base was happening. And now when we move to all the areas within the tech ecosystem within the country, look at manufacturing, the AI part, the chips which we are focusing on, and then finally enabling supercomputers to come and help in many of our areas there where we need precision, where we need that high computing capability. In fact, again, a French company has been the backbone of our weather forecasting ecosystem. Today in this country, we are able to give you weather forecasting accurately in a box of 6 kilometers by 6 kilometers. That's again a French company that has given us. So tech partnerships definitely have thrived, and now with the India hosting the AI Impact Summit, and rightly so, taking it over after from France, where the AI Action Summit was there, where President Macron ensured that Prime Minister Modi was the co-host and co-chair, and even there we gave the signals about how do we look at this whole sector from a bilateral point of view, but more so from a global welfare point of view. I think that responsible AI that is now the buzzword everywhere is something that both the countries have been talking. Now, Professor Sachdeva mentioned about the defense part and how over all these years that relationship has happened. Now, if you go to that area also, the tech that goes in the defense platforms and the ecosystem, even in that the cooperation has been significant. We have actually got technology support from them for many areas, and now the icing in the cake would be the fighter engine capabilities that would be built here right, in collaboration by Safran. So even Thales, Safran, Atos, Bull, all of these French companies have already had very successful partnerships in this country, whether with a public sector undertaking like BEL or even in the private sectors, to be able to build the capacity here and also export it globally. So I think that's the warmth of the relationship that has been sustained for years, and as the tech ecosystem expands further, where we are seeing the geopolitics of tech going in a completely different spin altogether, and where we see the two extremes also. If you take the US side and the Chinese side, and in between that space, how India and France are talking, how India and actually EU is also talking, and I think that is where I see that is the future is far much more collaborative than anything else.
Certainly. I mean, India and France, a partnership in tech and science and tech really extends to multiple domains, space and nuclear energy included. Now, the core of India-France partnership is underpinned by the shared democratic values, belief in multilateralism as a means to tackle global challenges, respect for international law, and strong economic, cultural and academic as well as people-to-people ties.
Let's look at these aspects of India-France ties. India and France established diplomatic relations after India's independence. This was 1947. Strategic partnership with France was launched on 26 January 1998, so nearly 3 decades of it. The year 2023 marked 25 years of India-France strategic partnership. We're talking about different aspects of India-France relations.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid an official visit on the 13th and 14th of July as a guest of honor at the French National Day. During PM Modi's visit to France in 2023, both the sides adopted the roadmap Horizon 2047. It's just when India completes 100 years of independence. Now, French President Macron paid a state visit to India as the chief guest of the 75th Republic Day of India on the 26th of January 2024.
The high-level exchanges have continued between India and France. In February of 2025, Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid a visit to France and co-chaired with President Macron the AI Action Summit in Paris. What we have underway in Delhi is AI Impact Summit. Paris hosted the AI Action Summit there.
Let's now also take a look at the trilateral cooperation that India and France have. Well, France is one of the original signatories of the MOU on India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, signed on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Delhi on the 9th of September 2023.
To further India-France roadmap on Indo-Pacific of 2023, in February of 2025, both sides signed a joint declaration of intent on triangular development cooperation. We're looking at different aspects of India-France relations. Professor Gulshan Sachdeva, that point that Subhamal mentioned earlier, in last year in February, Prime Minister Modi co-chaired the AI Action Summit, and now what we have is the AI Impact Summit that both leaders will be visiting together. You mentioned the manner in which relationship required a certain degree of trust to be able to cooperate in areas such as defense. But emerging technologies such as AI, we also know that India and France partner very closely in International Solar Alliance. So in these areas of emerging technology and the cooperation taking place, how do you see this as a sort of capacity force multiplier, this partnership for both of them and the region?
Well, I think you're right, because now, as we have very solid foundation of this partnership, and a couple of things which you mentioned, particularly Indo-Pacific,
Yes.
And particularly, the French, their own strategy, understanding of the Indo-Pacific, because they do believe that they are also a resident power within the Indo-Pacific. And then the trilaterals between India, Australia and France, India, UAE and France. And then you also have mentioned about, trilateral or triangular development cooperation. So these are the kind of things which we have basically kind of, added in the last few years. But now the future is really something very, very interesting and complicated. Now, 2 or 3 things which will really determine this future of India-France relationship. One, of course, is recently we have, kind of finalized India-EU trade agreement. Hopefully, we will also have investment agreement soon with the European Union. That will, definitely give a new momentum to India's relations, economic relations, because that's the core of our relationship with Europe. And French economy is a very important economy within the European Union, will definitely benefit from this new kind of, stage of our relationship. Because you also must not forget that the French economy is slightly smaller than the Indian economy, roughly of the same size, I would say, and just about 70 million population. So the per capita income is close to 55,000 US dollars. And they do have very technological edge in many of those things, which actually perhaps we will need. Whether you look at the nuclear technology, whether you look at quantum, you look at artificial intelligence, and you look at many other things in the future technologies. And of course, we have already the International Solar Alliance, and then this the artificial intelligence, we are partnering with them. And what they have also realized that in many of these technologies, who are going to be the major challenges for Europeans and for France? It's United States and it's China, which are leading in some of these technologies. So, of course, they also work very closely with the United States. I mean, they will continue to work, I believe. But as we have seen...
So, we'll interrupt you for a moment. We'll be getting some visuals of delegation-level exchanges between delegations of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting President Emmanuel Macron of France. Those visuals coming in from Mumbai, financial capital of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in talks with President Emmanuel Macron of France.
Yes, as you can see, full delegation present there. In fact, President Macron, when he came or left rather for India, he mentioned that he's coming with a full gamut of delegation, including business leaders, people from the field of energy and tech as well. But this is an official delegation that you're seeing right now, where you can see Prime Minister Modi flanked by the External Affairs Minister as well as the National Security Advisor, and so is President Macron by their counterparts. So these are official level talks, and after which there will be leader statements as well as exchange of documents.
Professor Devat, the point that you were making, if you could.
Yeah, so the point I was making was that now in these technologies, the future technology, which are going to determine the future of global technology, European technology or European economy, and also the Indian economy. And these are also very important for to achieve all the sustainable development goal targets which the world has set. Now, one is, of course, they can work with the United States, which they will continue to work. And they also had very close partnerships also earlier with China. In fact, at one point of time, the EU's partnership and also the French partnership with the China was also thought to be very, very important. But in the last few years, there is a real caution about this within Europe and also within France. So which are those partners which they can really work? Looking for these two other alternatives. Now, India is a country which, there are certain values which they share, whether it's about effective multilateralism, whether it's about democracy, and many other things actually which India has. So they feel that it's in the long run, it's good and easy to work with a country like India, because if they have certain technologies there in France or in other parts in Europe, they can really scale up those technologies, because in this kind of next phase of globalization, it's a scaling up of new technologies, because unless you scale up, the technology itself will not really be of much help. So India can provide a lot of data. India can provide a major market for many of those things, and you can scale them up together. And as Emmanuel was mentioning, you can also then become really exporter of many of these technologies to the other parts of the world. And then India also has a very large number of educated workforce, and that they have clearly identified. That's why they had few years back, they also have a mobility agreement with India. They also want to attract a lot of Indian students to French universities. In fact, already more than 10,000 students are studying in different French universities. They want to keep them most of them actually in France.
Now India is open to campuses from foreign countries as well, so France could be a candidate in terms
of course,
their universities having campuses here.
Absolutely. But only thing in the past has been because of French language. Because many of our students were not really going to some of the other European universities except UK because of the language barrier. But now, as things have really, becoming more difficult in the US and in some other countries and in Canada and other places. They are also looking for new avenues to study and perhaps later on work. And I think many European countries, particularly France and Germany, they are really opening up. And they are also offering a lot of courses also in the English language per se, even in their universities. Even French universities are offering courses in English. So that's a major change actually one has seen in French education system. But of course, language will still be an important part if you really want to continue to settle in some of or work in French companies. And I think for the last few years, I think both countries have identified some of those bottlenecks and opportunities. And solid institutions, solid initiatives have been made to really tackle some of these issues.
All right. Since Shubhamal, artificial intelligence AI is the flavor of the week, so to speak, with the AI Impact Summit taking place in Delhi, let's talk about the concomitants because India and France are collaborating in those fairs as well, be it because the infrastructure requires a lot of energy, so there's renewable energy, and apart from that, reliable supply chains, rare earths, chips. Do you think that is where the partnership perhaps needs to be taken further from here, according to that roadmap as well, that is there till 2047?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the overall AI ecosystem, you take the infrastructure, you take the software and the AI part. In every stage, there are targeted areas in which you could work. Let's look at you mentioned about renewable energy. Before that, let me come to something known as liquid cooling. Now, AI systems are big guzzlers of energy, and
they produce a lot of heat.
Yes, and so France have the technology for liquid cooling, which has been very successfully employed. In fact, in the Horizon program in Europe for the large language model that they have, liquid cooling has been one of the biggest differentiators. So if we are able to get that and put it in our servers here, we are actually going to take down the cost
Is
of...
it something similar to nuclear reactors or different?
No, it's a little bit different.
That's the point though, because France also invests a lot in nuclear energy in Europe.
Yeah, so if you look at that whole space in which we would want to look at our energy diversification, and mind you, bill has also come about getting the private sectors also into the nuclear space. But if you look at liquid cooling per se for the servers, I think that itself will take down the cost of the AI infrastructure significantly, and look at the advantage to the environment and all of that stuff. So I think that's something that is already being looked at. In fact, when India is looking at building modular AI systems, and I know that our Minister of State Jitin Prasad as well as the India AI mission had been to France to see these kind of technologies in place. So this is one area that we really can work together, and there is no dearth of water in this country, but how do you process that water and take it to that stage where you are able to put up that whole server ecosystem in the country. In the budget we announced that up to 2047 we want to give the data centers tax holiday, which means that a lot of the cloud infrastructure and AI enhanced data centers are going to be set up in that country. Now in most of them, if you are able to bring in the liquid cooling, then I think we have a great story. Secondly, you come to the nuclear and the renewable part of the energy. Again, these are very clean fuels, and if you are able to use them and channelize them for many other sectors of the economy where you need energy, I think that is where significant conversations have to happen. The door is open and the horizons are clear and engagements are happening. So that goes to the next stage. The third is that even in this whole space of sovereignty around AI and maybe the whole AI story in which you look at more of the responsible part of the story, and where the overall EU story is coming, and where does the French lead, and that their whole effort dovetails into the India-EU cooperation around the AI and tech. In fact, in the India and EU TTC that has been there, this is one area where you are looking at responsible AI and sovereignty in a big way. So even in that, I think we actually carve a middle path, in the extremes where the Americans are thinking that the private sector lead and forget whatever be the consequences, and the Chinese, who God forbid what they are doing behind, you do not know. One fine day, every time they come up with a certain new surprise. So in that, the middle ground where you carry a large number of countries along, you see the understanding around the whole AI ecosystem among countries in the global south are very, very skewed today. So I think India and France overall can shape a very stable kind of a roadmap and ecosystem around the AI space, so that the jerks and hiccups and everything and the fear and everything that is being touted about, and you never still know the extent in which AI goes or how do you manage it and handle it. I think we do much larger good to the world. So action summit to impact summit, I think between the action and the impact we will leave alone a very big footprints in the global ecosystem when you look at the AI ecosystem.
Right, taking forward the conversation on your screens, you can see the visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi engaging with President Emmanuel Macron of France. Let me also welcome here another panelist, Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri, a former senior diplomat, is joining us in this special presentation. Ambassador Puri, good evening and welcome, sir. Now, in rapidly changing world order, what is your read on the significance of India-France partnership, even as we play those visuals of bilateral engagement between PM Modi and President Macron?
Thank you very much. I think this, to my mind, is truly the million-dollar question. Why India and France? Because, while France is truly rooted in the Western hegemony, it is one of the countries there, or perhaps the only major country there, which has played up its strategic autonomy. And India is a country for which strategic autonomy is important, for the simple reason we are now the largest country in the world, the fourth largest economy. We will become the third largest economy. You have to be recognized on your own. And France is therefore a particularly ideal and a particularly good. Why? I was overhearing the colleagues speaking before. Obviously, France is a technology powerhouse. It's also a nuclearly important country. It's a permanent member of the Security Council. It has a certain global sway. It also has technologies. It has interest in AI, just as we have. But I dare say we are large players in the game, perhaps not as the inventors and the holders of all the IPRs, etc. But Indians in particular are major players in it. I don't think the French are there, but their interest in being players by themselves is important. So, I think this is natural that this reach out has been developing over the last several years, that India and France have been coming together, cooperation, the most visible face being the Rafales, nuclear cooperation, all of these things are going forward. It's in my thinking, particularly important as we hope and try and build multipolarity in the world.
Right. Let me just talk about, you mentioned the Rafale, but in terms of overall defense and security as well, Professor Sachdev, India and France have been together. They have a certain key interest. Of course, India is in the Indo-Pacific. It's the most major player perhaps in the Indian Ocean region. But even the French have a presence here, and which is where their interests also coincide.
Well, I mean, what actually, the France was the, one of the first countries within Europe which they really identified that when things are changing, Indo-Pacific is one area in which they have already reasonably, some economic presence, and they also want to have certain other strategic presence in that. And they did have certain issues with the United States, with the AUKUS and others when happened, but then they also identified that Indian Ocean means, Indo-Pacific means also very important part of the Indo-Pacific narrative is also Indian Ocean. And within Indian Ocean, India's role is pretty important. So they identified very clearly that if they have to have certain kind of strategy, certain kind of influence within the Indo-Pacific, whether it's economic or strategic, they really have to work with India, like the United States. So that's what has been their understanding. But since they were working within the European kind of framework, because as I said, they're very much part of European strategic and economic framework. They didn't want to really take on geopolitically China. So they thought maybe the others will kind of do that kind of job and we'll continue to work economically with China, but also worried about some of the things of China that, then we can work with India. But I think now things are changing. There is kind of, the enthusiasm about China has slowed down within Europe, also within France. So things are changing very fast. And Indo-Pacific itself, I think narrative is going through undergoing different kind of changes now. So we'll have to see how things are going to work. But yes, I think the way India is situated in this whole Indo-Pacific, India's importance for France and for any other country, whether for the US or other European countries, is going to be important. And this is what we have been working together for many. And it's not just only about defense. We also have very serious concerns about sustainability within the Indo-Pacific. We have also many islands, and French, as they say in that
French territory is a
French territory is also there. But in the 70s itself, when you had the serious, the oil shocks and energy crisis, first time major crisis in Europe. French used to say that we may not have resources, but we have ideas, and then they started, aggressively towards nuclear energy, and this is what today you have, close to 70-75% electricity in France coming basically from nuclear, and many other countries within Europe, they still has reservations. Many of them have not even started nuclear. Germany started moving away from this, and those are the kind of ideas, strategic autonomy as Ambassador mentioned, and the worldview. How do we really come together? As I was saying, different geographies, different kind of economic, stages of economic development. But still, there are many things which have brought us together, and whether space, defense, and artificial intelligence, all of the new technologies. I think both of them are clearly identified that they can work together, whether bilaterally within India, France, and also some of those issues also will have to happen within the India-EU framework.
Right. Ambassador Manjeev Puri, I was thinking both leaders also have been at the helm of affairs in their respective countries for nearly a decade. Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a longer period than President Macron. And their convergence, they refer to each other as friends. How does this individual rapport that one has with another leader for such a long time period, we understand there's also a greater convergence in their worldview and the manner in which they approach different key issues. I mean, there is AI that we're talking about today, but I remember they also, pressed that button of International Solar Alliance together, a very historic scene. Just to quote an example, how do you see this individual rapport between the leaders also having an impact on the ties between the countries?
Chemistry matters. Let's not have two words about it. Chemistry certainly matters. Incidentally, ISA was before President Macron. So it's, India and France, there's a kind of relationship. Both of them have been leaders of their countries over the past decade or so. And chemistries matter. They help turn out various things and take things forward. I think all of this is particularly important. But in my understanding, both countries are mature countries. They have national interests, and while chemistries are important, they really all bat for their national interests. French national interests and Indian national interests on a number of global issues coincide because we are both countries which are proud and which try to work on a degree of strategic autonomy, not just simply going along with one of the big major powers, except. That's important. For a country like India, relationship with France on technology, on the nuclear side, on defense, and across the board, let me say, is also very important in building this thing that there's a self-standing India. It's important for our interests, which are multipolarities. Otherwise, let me be very honest with you. The super hegemon of the world, honestly, doesn't really seek partners. It only seeks allies. France is that way extremely important. Being part of them, having that access to technologies or similar technologies, being able to do all of this, yet having a certain interest of its own in strategic autonomy, and that's what allows us to build this particular congruence. And it's been going on for years on end, and I'm very happy that the AI Impact Summit was held last in Paris. We offered to host it in India. The French president has come here. So bilateral issues, true, but also global issues get taken forward and in a manner that sits well with the national interests of both the countries.
Naturally, France has been part of that whole process of trying to address the conflict in Ukraine as well, which has, of course, global concerns, India included. But Shubhamal, if we talk about, again, the area of technology, because India and France will also have a year of innovation now, which goes beyond AI as well. And there's a lot more that India and France can do together, where overall the gamut of innovation is concerned, even in terms of materials, in terms of, well, of course, the nuclear domain, in terms of modular reactors, space too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think space is one area again where in India a thriving startup ecosystem has come up very well. Companies like Digantara and all are up to world standards right from its inception. And so this is again an area where this particular action that's just going to happen now, where the innovation fund is being put in place, we'll see a lot of handshakes among the various startups on both the sides. I think there is a big story for India and the space ecosystems. And the moment we have said that we are going to encourage the private sector investments, already conversations are happening globally with many companies, and the Europeans, particularly France, has been at the forefront. So I would think that in the next 1 year, focus on the space ecosystem. How do we do it? Whether it's satellite monitoring, whether it is how do you protect the space cybersecurity, again a big area. These are areas in which I see definite cooperation. I think the innovation fund itself is just very pertinent now, because the whole bunch of startups that have come up beyond space also in other areas, and they are primarily built around some problem statement which actually the biggies or the big tech has actually not been able to still find or have not really put on focus. And this is something that I feel that they find a much wider acceptance in many of the niche areas that France can take in, or even Germany. If you look at the larger European ecosystem, the whole effort around the trade deal with Europe has also been to see that how do you expand on a pan-Europe basis also in areas where you improve. Mobility with France was already there, but now mobility on a European Union scale is also something that has been now fostered. So the possibility of our young techies and the startup with talent to be able to easily go and work and participate in filling up many of these gaps, or taking a mutation to the existing base technology, I think that exists. So the innovation fund is going to help a lot of this aspirations actually take off. And I think that in every area, let's even take the clean energy and the climate ecosystem, that's also an area where some of our startups are already engaging with the French companies. So I would think that the journey has begun, the journey is expanding. The best part is not only the Thales and Tata talking together, but plenty down in the supply chain lane. So about 70 companies or 70 startups from each side, talking to each other and trying to harness something together is a great story where we actually democratize technology, and that is also the focus with which Prime Minister Modi's government has been looking at, that how do you democratize technology, and particularly even democratize AI. So I would think we are just on the track to look at innovation from a futuristic point of view.
Right.
Right. Professor Gulshan Sachdeva, one term that we've been using quite often this evening, strategic autonomy for our viewers and for students of diplomacy. Just to understand that, till recent years, India was seen as very strongly adhering to the principle of strategic autonomy, from non-aligned to all-aligned. But ever since the new leadership in the United States, the new pressures on the global world order, we see more and more countries talking about standing on their own, from say Germany in Europe to even Japan and South Korea, all saying in different aspects that we must be able to rely on ourselves. How do you see this particular aspect defining the partnership between India and France? Because both these countries, before the recent powers talk about it, have been really a proponent of this concept of strategic autonomy.
You're right. I mean, this is what, in fact, I think everybody who has studied Indo-France ties for the last 25, 27 years clearly understood that this is one factor which has really brought these two countries together compared to many other partnerships what we have, even within Europe and even beyond Europe. This is also another word also used by Ambassador Manjeev Puri about maturity. And this is also the maturity of leadership between India and France. When in 1998, when we had nuclear test, many other countries which were very close partner of us, we were under sanctions. It was the France which was the only Western country which actually didn't go for sanctions, but they actually really wanted to bring India into, some kind of a nuclear, kind of framework that could be legitimize India's, nuclear ambitions. And since then, we have seen, you mentioned about Ukraine. I mean, this is also very clear to everyone that our perceptions about Ukraine war or Ukraine conflict or Ukraine crisis are very different from Europeans and also from French. Despite that, we have worked together. Of course, in the beginning, they had a little bit disappointment that, they thought that, we are very close strategic partners. India would also immediately condemn Russia. India would also, be very, say the things what actually the Europeans have been saying. But immediately, I mean, after certain months, I think everybody understood, and France obviously immediately understood that India has its own national interest. India has its own way of doing things. So you have to respect that. So there are other, yes, in certain areas there could be different perceptions. Similarly that, since as I said, they are very much part of the transatlantic alliance. So their certain views used to converge also with the US, but they also took certain, very separate stance on many issues in the past, even if when they were very close within the European economic and security architecture and transatlantic alliance. And similarly, India, of course, India, in fact, many people, when they say India from non-alliance to multi-alignment, I wouldn't say actually even alignment, because India normally doesn't align with any country. We have engagements. So it means we have all kind of engagements with different countries depending on what our interests are. So we are engaging with Europe, we are engaging with France, we are engaging with the United States, but we are not aligning with Europe, we are not aligning with Russia, or we are not aligning with the United States. So I think the similar kind of urge they have within Europe. But of course, as I said, they have a different security concerns, and they thought that, after Second World War, they joined, they were very much core of this, I would say the coal and steel community and later on the European project. But within that also they wanted to keep a distance. That was also one of the points when they were the one who were kind of reluctant to get even the United Kingdom into the European project, because that then the whole project would be real, because they're too close to the United States. So that will bring too much American influence within the European projects. Things change. Now we have also even Brexit, and but that I think the urge to have independent foreign policy and also strategic autonomy, that has been continued. That has really glued our things together. But another thing, the problem now later on what they have realized within Europe, because yes, you can have a strategic autonomy, but how can you really exercise that within the European project? Because ultimately, things are together, whether it's a European economic policy, and even broadly in the last 10, 15, 20 years, even like on case of Ukraine and other issues, they have aligned most of their policies together. But what they have really trying to do
as a grouping is Europe trying to,
in fact, what France is trying to do, because when for many years, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, when she was kind of a de facto leader of Europe, when she moved out, then suddenly, President Macron realized that this is a chance for France to take even leadership of Europe. And that's what he was trying with all the new ideas of strategic autonomy and everything else, much before, tensions between, United States and, with the European partners. So they have been saying this, but they also very cleverly trying to use, because now they see that, they are not the power of France is not what it used to be earlier. So now, how can we really use the European clout, European project to really, push for the French interest globally? So this is what they have been trying to do, using European project, but still trying to they're keeping their identity alive and using the European project. And somehow this also helped us.
And European leaders have been
ways.
talking about how the strategic autonomy of Europe as a whole
Yes,
is
let
closely
me toss this
associated
to
with
Ambassador Puri as well, because Shubhendu, you talked and Professor Bhargav also talked about strategic autonomy. The other thing that has come into vogue in Europe much after India espoused its self-reliance because of the troubles with the United States. Do you feel that that is also something that perhaps would augur well for ties between India and France, the urge to become as self-reliant as possible while having interests and coexisting as well in terms of relations and taking them forward?
Absolutely, there's no doubt. Let me just say something. Gulshan, thank you very much for mentioning all of this, not being aligned, etc. It seems you and I have lived in the village too long. Most other people seem to have decided that alignment is the only way forward. What else can we say about it? But anyway, let us stick to our views and our understanding of what is good for India. So you mentioned this thing about resilience. That's the important element. Look, there should be absolutely no doubt, at least I talk for India, a country of our size, 16 or 17% of the global population, as we said, fourth largest economy. We have no choice but to be resilient and, in a sense, I won't say self-reliant.
So we'll interrupt you for a moment. We're going across live to Mumbai now. The leaders are about to make statements. Exchange of MOUs will also take place now. These visuals coming in live from Mumbai. The delegation-level talks have concluded between Prime Minister Modi and President Macron.
Shri Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the Republic of Bharat, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. During this visit, the two sides have further strengthened the India-France strategic partnership with more than 20 agreements and outcomes in diverse areas of cooperation, straddling defense, economy, digital transformation, skilling and health. The year 2026 also marks the India-France Year of Innovation. We will begin the event with witnessing the virtual inauguration of the H125 Helicopter final assembly line at Bilateral in Karnataka, which has been set up by Tata Advanced Systems in partnership with Airbus. Defense Minister Shri Rajnath Singh and Her Excellency Ms. Catherine Vautron, the Minister for Armed Forces of France, are present at the venue. We begin with a screening of a short video in this regard.
जब फ्रांस की टेक्नोलॉजी और भारत का टैलेंट मिलेगा तो सिर्फ बिजनेस लैंडस्केप ही नहीं, ग्लोबल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होगा।
I now request Prime Minister Modi and President Macron to virtually inaugurate this H125 helicopter final assembly line by jointly pressing the button. We will now have live visuals from the site in Karnataka. This concludes the inauguration ceremony of the H125 final assembly line facility. I would request the two leaders to return to their respective podiums. I would like to inform that Prime Minister Modi will be addressing the media in Hindi. Members of the audience may use the audio device provided to them to listen to the translation in French language. I now request the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs to conduct the rest of the proceedings.
Namaskar, good evening. Your Excellency, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, President of the French Republic, Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, Honorable Ministers, members of both delegations, distinguished guests, and friends from the media. We will now have the press statements. May I request Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, to give his remarks to the media.
Your Excellency, my dear friend, प्रेसिडेंट मैक्रो, दोनों देशों के डेलीगेट्स, मीडिया के साथियों, नमस्कार। bonjour। मेरे प्रिय मित्र प्रेसिडेंट मैक्रो का मुंबई में स्वागत करते हुए मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है। पिछले वर्ष उन्होंने मुझे फ्रांस में आयोजित AI एक्शन समिट के लिए बुलाया था। उस समय हमने मार्सेई की यात्रा की, जो फ्रांस का सबसे बड़ा पोर्ट और फ्रांस और पूरे यूरोप का एक प्रमुख गेटवे भी है। मार्सेई वही शहर है जहां से पहले विश्व युद्ध में हमारे भारतीय सैनिक ने यूरोप में अपने कदम रखे। उनकी बहादुरी की गाथा यूरोप के कई भागों में आज भी याद की जाती है। और यह वही शहर है जहां स्वतंत्रता सेनानी वीर सावरकर ने अंग्रेजों की पकड़ से निकलने के लिए समुद्र में छलांग लगाई थी। उनका यह कदम भारत की आजादी के लिए उनके अटूट संकल्प का प्रतीक था। मुझे पिछले वर्ष मार्सेई में उनको याद करने का और उन्हें नमन करने का अवसर मिला था। इस बार जब प्रेसिडेंट मैक्रो भारत में AI इम्पैक्ट समिट के लिए आए हैं, तो हमारा सौभाग्य है कि हम उनका स्वागत भारत के गेटवे यानी मुंबई में कर रहे हैं। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और फ्रांस के संबंध बहुत ही विशेष है। फ्रांस भारत के सबसे पुराने स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर्स में से एक है और प्रेसिडेंट मैक्रो के साथ मिलकर हमने इस स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को अभूतपूर्व गहराई और ऊर्जा दी है। इस विश्वास और साझा विजन के आधार पर आज हम अपने संबंधों को स्पेशल ग्लोबल स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के रूप में स्थापित कर रहे हैं। यह पार्टनरशिप केवल स्ट्रेटेजिक नहीं है, आज के उथल-पुथल से भरे युग में यह ग्लोबल स्टेबिलिटी और ग्लोबल प्रोग्रेस की पार्टनरशिप है। फ्रेंड्स, आज भारत में हेलीकॉप्टर असेंबली लाइन का उद्घाटन इस गहरे विश्वास का एक और उज्जवल उदाहरण है। हमें गर्व है कि भारत और फ्रांस मिलकर माउंट एवरेस्ट की ऊंचाइयों तक उड़ान भरने वाला विश्व का एकमात्र हेलीकॉप्टर भारत में बनाएंगे और ये पूरे विश्व को एक्सपोर्ट भी करेंगे। यानी इंडिया फ्रांस पार्टनरशिप knows no boundaries. It can reach from deep oceans to the tallest mountain. Friends, वर्ष 2026 भारत और यूरोप के संबंधों में एक टर्निंग पॉइंट है। कुछ ही दिन पहले हमने यूरोपियन यूनियन के साथ भारत के इतिहास का सबसे बड़ा और महत्वाकांक्षी फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट किया। यह फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट भारत और फ्रांस संबंधों में भी अभूतपूर्व गति लाएगा। आपसी निवेश को बढ़ावा देने के लिए आज हम एग्रीमेंट कर रहे हैं जिससे हमारे लोगों और हमारी कंपनीज को डबल टैक्स न देना पड़े। इन सभी पहलों से आपसी ट्रेड, इन्वेस्टमेंट और मोबिलिटी को नई ऊर्जा मिलेगी और यही शेयर्ड प्रॉस्पेरिटी का रोड मैप है। फ्रेंड्स, इंडिया फ्रांस ईयर ऑफ इनोवेशन के लॉन्च से अब हम अपनी स्ट्रेटेजिक साझेदारी को पार्टनरशिप ऑफ द पीपल बनाने जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि इनोवेशन आइसोलेशन में नहीं, कोलैबोरेशन से होता है। इसलिए इंडिया फ्रांस ईयर ऑफ इनोवेशन में हमारा लक्ष्य लोगों के बीच संपर्क को मजबूत करने का है। डिफेंस हो या क्लीन एनर्जी, स्पेस हो या इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज, हर क्षेत्र में हम अपनी इंडस्ट्री और इनोवेटर्स को कनेक्ट करेंगे। स्टार्टअप्स और एमएसएमईज के बीच मजबूत नेटवर्क बनाएंगे। हमारे स्टूडेंट्स और रिसर्चर्स के आदान प्रदान को और सुगम बनवाएंगे और इसके साथ साथ जॉइंट इनोवेशन के नए सेंटर भी तैयार करेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, आज हम क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, बायोटेक्नोलॉजी और एडवांस मटेरियल्स में अपना सहयोग और प्रबल कर रहे हैं। हम इंडो फ्रेंच सेंटर फॉर एआई इन हेल्थ, इंडो फ्रेंच सेंटर फॉर डिजिटल साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी और नेशनल सेंटर ऑफ अलायंस फॉर स्किलिंग इन एरोनॉटिक्स लॉन्च करने जा रहे हैं। और यह मात्र इंस्टीट्यूशंस नहीं है, ये फ्यूचर बिल्डिंग प्लेटफॉर्म्स है। फ्रेंड्स, आज दुनिया अनसर्टेनिटी के दौर से गुजर रही है। ऐसे माहौल में इंडिया फ्रांस पार्टनरशिप एक फोर्स फॉर ग्लोबल स्टेबिलिटी है। हम फ्रांस की एक्सपर्टाइज और इंडिया के स्केल को जोड़ रहे हैं। हम ट्रस्टेड टेक्नोलॉजीज विकसित कर रहे हैं। हम इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस, इंडिया मिडिल ईस्ट यूरोप इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर यानी आईमैक और ज्वाइंट डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट के माध्यम से ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट सुनिश्चित करेंगे और मल्टीलेटरलिज्म, डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी से स्थिरता और समृद्धि के प्रयासों को बल देते रहेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और फ्रांस दोनों लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों, रूल ऑफ लॉ और मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड में विश्वास रखते हैं। हम एक मत है कि ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशन के रिफॉर्म से ही ग्लोबल चैलेंजेस का समाधान निकलेगा। यूक्रेन, पश्चिमी एशिया या फिर इंडो पैसिफिक, हम हर क्षेत्र में शांति के सभी प्रयासों का समर्थन करते रहेंगे। आतंकवाद के हर रूप और स्वरूप को जड़ से मिटाना हमारी साझी प्रतिबद्धता है। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और फ्रांस दोनों ही प्राचीन और समृद्ध सभ्यताएं हैं। हम अपने कल्चरल और पीपल टू पीपल टाइज को बहुत महत्व देते हैं। हमें बहुत खुशी है कि युगे युगीन भारत म्यूजियम में हमारा सहयोग रहा है और अब लोथल के नेशनल मैरीटाइम हेरिटेज कॉम्प्लेक्स में भी हम फ्रांस के साथ सहयोग करने जा रहे हैं। भारतीय संस्कृति को फ्रांस के लोगों के और समीप पहुंचाने हम जल्द ही फ्रांस में स्वामी विवेकानंद कल्चरल सेंटर खोलने जा रहे हैं। योर एक्सेलेंसी, भारत फ्रांस पार्टनरशिप के प्रति आपकी गहरी प्रतिबद्धता रही है। मुझे विशेष खुशी है कि आज हम मिलकर अपने संबंधों के एक नए अध्याय का शुभारंभ कर रहे हैं। आइए हम मिलकर वैश्विक स्थिरता और समृद्धि के लिए काम करें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मेसी बको।
Thank you, sir. May I now request His Excellency, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, President of the French Republic, to give his remarks to the media.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Cher Narendra Modi, Mesdames, Messieurs les ministres, les ambassadeurs, Mesdames et Messieurs les journalistes. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre, pour votre accueil chaleureux à l'occasion de ma 4e visite officielle en Inde et 1 an après
भारत के मेरे चौथे आधिकारिक दौरे पर आपकी गर्मजोश भरे स्वागत के लिए
l'intelligence artificielle et
और ये मैं AI के समिट के लिए और भारत और जो आपने कहा, हम जब आप पिछले साल फ्रांस में आए थे और जब हम मार्सेई गए थे और जो आपने मार्सेई के बारे में बात की, वहाँ पर हमने एक भारतीय काउंसुलेट का भी उद्घाटन किया था। भारत और फ्रांस के बीच के द्विपक्षीय जो संबंध है वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा अभूतपूर्व है और सबसे अलग है। जैसे कि हमारी आज की बातचीत हुई थी और जो हम आगे भी करते रहेंगे आज पूरे दिन में, जो ये रिश्ते हैं, जो ये संबंध है, उनमें भरोसा है, खुलापन है, महत्वाकांक्षा है और हमने ये भी आज निर्णय लिया है कि हम इस साझेदारी को एक विशेष स्ट्रेटेजिक साझेदारी में बदलेंगे और इसका एक नया दर्जा देंगे। ये इसमें कोई शक नहीं है क्योंकि हमें पूरी तरह से इस रिश्ते में हम भरोसा रखते हैं और पिछले 8 सालों से हम यही कर रहे हैं और हर एक साल हम अलग अलग चीज़ों पर काम करके हमने एक नए रास्ते, कई नए रास्ते चुने हैं, जैसे कि तीसरा रास्ता जो हिंद प्रशांत क्षेत्र का हो या फिर तकनीक का हो या फिर, और जिसमें हम ऐसा रास्ता है जिसमें कोई भी हेजेमनी ना हो और हम पूरी तरह से कानून में, रूल ऑफ लॉ में विश्वास करते हैं। और कुछ पिछले सालों में हमने ये दिखाया है, दर्शाया है, चाहे वो आईमेक हो जो जिसको हमने मिलकर हमने जिसका हमने शुरुआत करी थी और जिसके लिए हमने एक सेक्रेटेरिएट भी खोला है। और फिर हम अगर हम आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की बात करें, चाहे हम इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस की बात करें, इन पिछले 8 सालों में हमने कई पहल एक साथ उठाए हैं। और अगर मैं द्विपक्षीय रिश्तों पर फिर से आऊँ तो हमारे जो महत्वाकांक्षी रिश्ते हैं उसके लिए हमने नए उद्देश्य तय किए हैं। हमने अपने SMEs और स्टार्टअप्स के लिए भी नए उद्देश्य रखे हैं। फ्रांस जो है वो चाहता है कि वह भारत का एक विश्वसनीय साझेदार हो, ताकि हमारे जो उद्योग हैं वो एक अद्वितीय सहयोग प्रदान कर सके। अगर हाँ, जैसा कि हमने चाहे राफाल हो, चाहे सबमरीन्स हो, चाहे वो ये जो हेलीकॉप्टर्स के लिए जो फाइनल असेंबली लाइन जो टाटा एडवांस्ड कंपनी जो है वो मिलकर फ्रांस के साथ कर रही है, या फिर जो फिफ्थ जनरेशन के जो फाइटर जेट्स हैं उनके लिए जो इंजन है उनकी नई सोच, उनके लिए ऐसे कई जो क्षेत्र है जहाँ पर हम मिलकर भारत के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, जहाँ पर हम टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर में विश्वास करते हैं, और जैसा कि आपने चाहा है हमने वैसा ही करने का प्रयास किया है। और हम दोनों ही जो है वह जो रणनीतिक स्वायत्ता है उसमें विश्वास करते हैं। आपने रक्षा क्षेत्र की भी बात करी, मैंने भी उसके बारे में कहा, लेकिन कई ऐसे और भी ऐसे और क्षेत्र हैं जिसमें हमारी जो सोच है वो साझा सोच है, चाहे वो अंतरिक्ष का क्षेत्र क्यों ना हो। और इस क्षेत्र में कई सालों से हमारा जो रिश्ते हैं वो बेहतरीन हुए हैं, वो आगे बहुत मजबूत हुए हैं। और इसीलिए जुलाई में जो फ्रांस में एक शिखर सम्मेलन का हम आयोजन करने जा रहे हैं अंतरिक्ष के क्षेत्र में, उसमें हमने भारत को भी निमंत्रण दिया है। और चाहे वो सिविल न्यूक्लियर का क्षेत्र हो, उसमें भी चाहे जाता पर हो, चाहे SME हो, हमने इन सभी परियोजनाओं में भारत का समर्थन करने का निर्णय लिया है। और हम एक कॉमन रोड मैप के लिए भी हम काम कर रहे हैं, ताकि अगर जो वैश्विक जो चुनौतियां उनका सामने करने के लिए, ताकि हम एक रास्ता निकालें विश्व के लिए जो हेजेमनी से काफ़ी अलग हो। अगर एरोनॉटिक का क्षेत्र ये भी एक अहम क्षेत्र है, और जो हम हाई स्पीड रेल नेटवर्क की बात करते हैं वो भी एक क्षेत्र है जिसमें हम एक भरोसेमंद साझेदार के रूप में उभर रहे हैं। अभी जो हाल में ही हमने प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ जो बातचीत करी है वो काफ़ी महत्वाकांक्षी है, और वो नए उद्देश्यों को लेकर साथ आई है। और क्योंकि हम जो चाहते हैं वो हमारे रिश्तों में महत्वाकांक्षा और भी आगे बढ़े। हम चाहते हैं कि बेहतरीन टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफ़र हो, और भी ज़्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफ़र हो। और इसे भारत के प्रधानमंत्री के साथ हम आज जो है वो आज जो हम इनोवेशन ईयर का जो उद्घाटन करने जा रहे हैं, हम चाहते हैं कि हमारे जो निवेशक हों, चाहे वो हमारे स्टार्टअप्स हों, चाहे हमारी कंपनियां हों, वो R&D सेंटर्स हों या और सेंटर्स हों, मिलकर काम करें। ये पूरी तरह से हमारी जो सोच के अनुरूप है, जो और जिन पर हमारे जो मंत्रीगण हैं उन्होंने अपनी बैठकों में जिन पर बातचीत करी है। अगर आपने जो एक स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में AI की जो बात करी है, हम कल मैं एम्स अस्पताल में इसका उद्घाटन करूंगा, और ताकि हम जो ये नवाचार है या इनोवेशन है ये हमारी जो संबंध है उसके केंद्र में हो, हम हमारी अर्थव्यवस्थाओं की वृद्धि के केंद्र में हो। नवाचार इनोवेशन जो किसी भी तकनीक के केंद्र में हो, और जो हमारे 2047 के जो हमारे हॉराइजन रोड मैप है उसके भी पूरी तरह से अनुरूप है। वो पूरी तरह से हमारे जो उद्देश्य हैं उनको परिभाषित करता है, और जो हमारे लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। चाहे आपने शोध की बात करी, टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करी, हमारे विद्यार्थियों के आदान प्रदान की बात करी है। कल दिल्ली में मैं कई उच्च स्तरीय जो हमारे विश्वविद्यालयों और वैज्ञानिकों के बीच में जो एक बैठक होने जा रही है रश के अंतर्गत, उसमें मैं भाग लूंगा। मेरे ख्याल से पिछले कुछ साल में शायद हमारी जो व्यापार है या हमारे जो संबंध है वो बहुत तेज़ी से आगे नहीं बढ़ पाए, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि धीरे धीरे ये हमारे जो संबंध है बहुत तेज़ी से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं और हम चाहते हैं और हमने कई ऐसे क्षेत्रों को हमने जो है उनको हमने आइडेंटिफाई करा है कि उन क्षेत्रों को हमें तेज़ी लानी चाहिए ताकि ये जो संबंध है और भी बेहतरीन और भी आगे जाएं। इसमें हम ट्रांजिट वीज़ा की भी हमने बात करी है जो फ्रांस में के लिए लेना पड़ता है और हम इस पर अध्ययन करेंगे कि कैसे इसको हटाया जा सकता है। कल मैं एक फ्रेंच इंस्टीट्यूट में नए जो सांस्कृतिक मध्यस्थ हैं उनसे भी बातचीत करूंगा, कल्चरल मीडिएटर से बातचीत करूंगा, क्योंकि फ्रांस और भारत दो ऐसे देश हैं जिनको विश्व को बहुत कुछ देने के लिए है। आज जो हम गेटवे ऑफ इंडिया पे जिस तरीके से हम रोशनी करेंगे और वहाँ पे जो हमने कार्यक्रम का आयोजन किया है वो भी इसी के वो भी दर्शाता है कि कितना हमारे देशों के बीच में संबंध जो है वो नज़दीकी है। और हम इस जो के एंटरटेनमेंट इंडस्ट्री, क्रिएटिव इंडस्ट्री में भी हमने ये कहा है कि हमें को प्रोडक्शन करने चाहिए और ये एक हमने एक महत्वाकांक्षा नया उद्देश्य अपनी क्रिएटिव इंडस्ट्रीज को दिया है, क्योंकि हमारी जो सोच है वो बिल्कुल एक जैसी है, चाहे वो सोच भारत के लिए हो या पूरे क्षेत्र के लिए हो या हिंद प्रशांत क्षेत्र के लिए हो, चाहे वो व्यापार के लिए क्यों ना हो, हमारी सोच जो है वो उसमें बहुत तालमेल है। हम पूरी तरह से खुले और व्यापार पर विश्वास करते हैं, इसीलिए यूरोपियन यूनियन और भारत के बीच में जो FTA हुआ है उसका हम स्वागत करते हैं और इसमें हम चाहेंगे कि वो जल्द से जल्द आगे बढ़े और हमारी सोच जो है वो बहुपक्षीयवाद पर भी पूरी तरह से तालमेल रखती है। कल मैं आपके साथ होऊंगा और पिछले साल प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी फ्रांस में थे। हम पूरी तरह से वैश्विक प्रतिस्पर्धा में एक साथ मिलकर आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं और मुझे लगता है कि हम ऐसे मॉडल दुनिया को दे सकते हैं कैसे एक दूसरे के साथ काम किया जाता है। और इस संबंध में मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि हम दोनों चाहते हैं कि हम ऐसे आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का निर्माण हो जो एक दूसरे का सम्मान करे, जो लोगों का सम्मान करे, जो भूपक्षवाद का सम्मान करे और जो अलग अलग भाषाएं हैं उनका सम्मान करे, क्योंकि हमारा विश्व जो है वो विविध है, उसमें बड़ी अलग अलग तरह के लोग, अलग अलग चीज़ें होती हैं, लोगों की संस्कृति अलग है और हम चाहेंगे कि जो एल्गोरिदम्स हों वो पारदर्शी हों, वो ट्रांसपेरेंट हों, खुले हों। और ये भूपक्षवाद एक ऐसा भूपक्षवाद है जिसका हम इस्तेमाल बड़े बड़े जो संघर्ष है विश्व में उसका समाधान करने में भी इस्तेमाल करना चाहते हैं, जो पूरी तरह से संयुक्त राष्ट्र चार्टर के अनुरूप हों। हम चाहते हैं कि हम अपने जो प्रयास हैं वो एक साथ लाकर कि जो यूक्रेन में जो लोगों के ऊपर या सिविल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उन पर जो हमले हो रहे हैं उनके लिए मिलकर हम काम करें ताकि उनको रोका जा सके। और हम चाहते हैं कि हम आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भी अपनी लड़ाई को बनाए रखें और हम सभी जो आतंकवादी समूह हैं उनको हम नकारते हैं और इस साल इस 2026 की अगर हम बात करें तो ये जो वर्ष है ये हमारे संबंधों में और तेज़ी लाने वाला संबंध है। आप ब्रिक्स की अध्यक्षता कर रहे हैं, हम फ्रांस जो है वो G7 की अध्यक्षता कर रहा है और इसीलिए मैंने इसी संदर्भ में प्रधानमंत्री मोदी को G7 शिखर सम्मेलन में आमंत्रित किया है और इसी भावना को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम इस G7 के समिट से पहले हम कुछ बैठकें करना चाहते हैं जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मुद्दों पर होगा, जो और जो हमारे G7 के जो उद्देश्य है, एजेंडा है, वो असमानताओं को कम करने का होगा, ताकि हम मिलकर एक द्विपक्षीय बैठकें कर भी इस शिखर सम्मेलन से पहले, तो ताकि हम अपने जो एक ऐसी बैठक भी उसके अंतर्गत करेंगे जिसमें भारत के जो युवा हैं और फ्रांस के युवा हैं, वैज्ञानिक हैं, भारत के वैज्ञानिक हैं, और G7 देशों के जो युवा वैज्ञानिक हैं, वो मिलकर नवाचार में जो उन्होंने काम किया है उसको परिणाम हमारे सामने रखें। ये जो भी मैं कहूँगा वो बिल्कुल पूरी तरह से जो प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने कहा है उसका पूरक है कि हम कैसे अपने संबंधों को बेहतरीन करना चाहते हैं, उसको में वृद्धि लाना चाहते हैं। हमारी जो साझेदारी है वो स्थिर है और वो पूरी तरह से सबके सामने है, जो लोगों के लिए है, और जिसके परिणाम जो हैं वो बहुत बेहतरीन रह चुके हैं, लेकिन इसको हम और भी बढ़िया करना चाहते हैं, खासतौर पर चाहे व्यापार हो या कई ऐसे और क्षेत्रों जिसमें मुझे लगता है कि हम मिलकर विश्व को बहुत कुछ दे सकते हैं। हम बड़े बड़े कनेक्टिविटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो या टेक्नोलॉजी हो, उसमें हम बहुत ठोस परिणाम इसमें ला सकते हैं, और इन चीज़ों पर हमने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के साथ बातचीत भी करी है। और क्योंकि हम दोनों इस समय दो बड़े संगठनों की अध्यक्षता कर रहे हैं इस साल, तो हम इसमें भी हम तालमेल ला सकते हैं, हम अपनी सोच में कन्वर्जेंस ला सकते हैं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the close of this session. Thank you for your presence.